Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Call Me Crazy with Davis James. I have just finished a 3-mile run. I had 2 full Celsiuses, and I am slightly erect. And if that's not the best way to open up a podcast, I'm not sure what is. I just opened a message from my buddy who was responding to my prompt on Instagram to have people send me some stories. And I want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Cam. Cameron is the case manager at the detox that I went to multiple times, and I also started working there at one point, so we became really good friends. And Cameron is a whack job of a guy. Love him to death. Very, very hard worker and good worker. Shout out to Cam, but a whack job nonetheless. He said he had once shot up water when he was sick just because he wanted to shoot something up. He said, FYI, it helped. Gotta love Cam for that one. Appreciate you for sending that in, Cam. Cameron one time was arrested for excessive loitering, I think was the official police term. Basically what that means is he would go up to people and ask them for money at the gas station, at the gas pump, so aggressively that they deemed it a crime. And I'll leave that up to your imagination as to how the cops would perceive aggressive loitering. But yeah, that's Cam. He lived as a homeless man for quite some time, but he's got his head back on his shoulders. I think he's got like 10 years 10 years sober. He still shoots up water, though, just for fun. But yeah, shout out Cam. Love you, buddy. Thank you for sending that in. I appreciate you. I am very excited to be here today. I am loving these episodes. I want to say thank you guys again for watching last week's episode. Again, way more support than I could ever have dreamed of. I'm so grateful to you guys. I've from your support, been able to take a step back from my 9 to 5 and been able to focus on this more, and it's been awesome. And I'm really excited for a lot of other things to come, and more of these episodes and more fun and all that stuff. So I thank you guys for being here. I thank you guys for watching. I thought I'd open up with, in the spirit of the detox that we were just talking about, I'd like to open up a story that I've told, I think, before publicly on my Instagram, but maybe not in such detail. But the first time that I ever ended up having to go to detox, I'd never been to anything like that before. Super nervous, scared, obviously. And I got put in this room that had three beds in it. And I was on the bed on the very, very far right. So there was a bed on the right, middle, and left, and I was on the very far right. Now, I only had one roommate, so the bed on the far left was unoccupied. But the guy in the middle, I didn't talk to initially because he was going through it. He was sick. And this guy was coming off of opiates. And for those that don't know, one of the side effects of opiate use is constipation. I don't know if you've ever seen those commercials. Are you or a loved one suffering from opioid-induced constipation? That's what they're talking about. So this guy, he's going through it. We don't talk. And then finally he gets up and he chats it up. This dude's name, I don't want to say it publicly, but we'll just call him Old Boy Ron. He was an older gentleman, probably in his 60s. This guy didn't start using drugs or alcohol till he was 55 years old, at which point, at the spry age of 55, he decided to take up cocaine use. So he dabbled with that for a little while, and then one day he went to his dealer, and the dealer was like, I don't have any more of that, but I do have this. And he showed him some heroin. So old boy Ron at the age of 55 is now a heroin addict, and he did that for 5 years, and that's how he ended up in the bed next to me. One other thing about old boy Ron was his diet. His diet consisted pretty much of 1 entire gallon jug of whole milk throughout the entirety of the day. 1 per day. 1 full gallon jug of milk. Okay? All right. And then on top of that, one of the other things that he liked to sprinkle in as an appetizer was aggressive use of laxatives. Because again, I want to stress the constipation. And nothing seemed to be working for old boy Ron. You'd think the milk alone would do it, but nothing was happening. And he would continuously go back for more laxatives, more stool softeners. The nurse was like, "Dear God, Ron, stop this." And he was like, "Nothing's happening." So day 4 or 5 rolls around. I, at this point, have gotten, slightly more acclimated, and I'm laying in bed. I fall asleep. 3 in the morning rolls around, and apparently the levee broke, folks, okay? Because this is the first time that I had ever had this experience in my life. I had been woken up by my sense of smell. Usually it's a light or a sound or a movement. This time it was the smell that had bombarded its way into my nostrils. And the next thing I knew, my eyes opened wide. I'm pretty sure they were bloodshot too from the smell. And the next thing I knew, one of the workers kicked in the door wearing a full hazmat suit and screamed, "Get up, Ron." Okay. And I was like, at this point I was like, what the hell's going on? So I shoot up, I look over. Ron is not getting up out of his bed. And the guy's like, "Ron, get up. You shit yourself. You need to get out of the bed." And he was like, "No, I'm going to take care of it tomorrow." And he's like, "What are you talking about tomorrow? There is no tomorrow with this situation. There's here and now. This is very much a live in the moment situation, Ron." He still will not get up out of the bed. So this guy grabs him by the ankle and drags him into the bathroom and just throws him in the shower, turns on the water, and closes the door. One other thing to note about Ron was that his pajamas consisted of no underwear and Wrangler jeans. What do you think about that? His penis was probably one ginormous callus. But I note that because before he got into the shower, while he was laying in bed, the worker had to rip off the Wrangler jeans. And when he did, they got stuck at the knee, and then they got unstuck pretty rapidly. So it shot Dookie on the wall as if it was some sort of, autistic fecal Jackson Pollock painting. I'm sitting in bed watching this guy handle the situation in complete awe. I mean, he's orchestrating it wonderfully. Old boy Ron is just doing a groan in the shower while the cold water probably is just hitting his face. And the guy, he changes the sheets, wraps everything up, changes everything, and then the next thing I hear is the sound of a 1945 B-52 bomber, or whatever year that plane came out, in the corner of the room. He had turned on one of those industrial-size Home Depot fans in the room, and then, thinking it was a smart idea, stood behind it with a can of Febreze, lavender Febreze, and sprayed it into the fan so that it jet streamed out into the room, which you'd think would maybe help. Really, all it did, though, was initially the fan pushed the dookie smell. It ricocheted off the wall and hit me straight in the face. Then now the Febreze has now pushed the dookie smell and so it's dookie smell backed up by Febreze, hitting the wall, hitting my nose, and I just want to vomit, And so eventually I had to get up and leave the room. The ending of that saga is actually slightly more interesting than that. So old boy Ron, after that, I'm a nice guy, folks. I wasn't going to the next day be like, "What's up, Dookie man? Nice job last night." Or just, give him shit, no pun intended. So I was a nice guy. And I think because of that, he maybe took advantage of the situation a little bit, because we became friends. Nobody wanted to talk to Dookie man except for me, which I didn't really want to talk to him, but I did because I'm a bitch. But eventually he liked that I played the guitar, and he starts talking about his son. And he's like, "I really, you remind me a lot of my son. I really want you to teach my son how to play the guitar." And I was like, "Well, hopefully, Ron, you taught him potty training first before that." But I said, "Sure, whatever." And eventually he starts to really grab onto me, kind of in a creepy way, of a father-son thing, not like a gay thing or whatever, but a sexual thing, but still creepy nonetheless. And it gets to the point where I decide that I'm going to go out to California for rehab, because, whatever. And Ron decides to spend, he doesn't have any insurance, so this is all cash pay. I had health insurance, so luckily insurance covered literally every cost of my treatment, which is insane and a completely different story. But he didn't have any insurance, so he was private pay everywhere. This dude, because of the obsession, and literally, and I quote, because he said, I want you to teach my son how to play the guitar, spends $50,000 of his own money to follow me out to California. But because I had insurance issues, he ended up there first. He landed there like 2 days before me. So I fly out there. I land, I get to the building, I have to go in, and then the first thing that you do at all these places is the intake process, which always takes forever. But at this place, it took especially long. And I'm sitting there in this office with the nurse doing the intake for like 2 hours. The entire time that I was in there, Ron had come into the building and was sitting outside of the room waiting for me for literally all 2 hours that I was in there. I finish up, come out, he, opens up the arms for the embrace, the big hug. I, whatever, I do it, I bring him in. He leans in close in the hug, whispers in my ear, we've made a huge mistake. We need to get the hell out of here. I was like, what the hell, Ron? You bury the lead 2 hours after I just finished my intake? You couldn't have intake interruptus to let me know that this place was a literal hell? Turns out, though, actually, that was not, well, I'll say this, that rehab was garbage. Don't get me wrong, but the reason that Ron was so pissed is that literally 24 hours into his stay, he got put on like a warning or whatever, their watch list for sexual harassment because he told the 70-year-old cook that she had nice jugs. And so he had a lot of problems. Old boy Ron did. I hope he's doing well, but I couldn't probably be more positive that somebody is deceased. So rest in peace, old boy Ron. And that is that's the story that I'm going to open up with, folks. I've told that story a million times in different rehabs and rooms, but I don't think I've ever told the entirety of it on camera. It's one of my or on the internet, but it's one of my favorite stories that I love so much. I really do hope that old boy Ron as well, but again, hopes are not very high. So, folks, we are going to follow somewhat of the same formula with this episode. I always like to start off with a story that maybe you have heard, just not quite in so much of detail or just something new. But so I love that story. I want to hear from you guys. So I've put on my Instagram that I want to hear stories. Again, it might not be as straightforward as I would like for it to be, but essentially just any crazy story that if you told it to a normal person, they would be like that you completely made that up. I want to hear stories that people think are made up, but are only believable because you saw them with your own eyes. And so from that, I've had a few stories that have been submitted to me, and I wanted to bring one of them up here. All right, here we go. Oh, I'm sorry, this guy's name is not Gus. It's Guy. What up, Guy? Hey, Guy. All right, this is long. All right, here we go. From Guy. Guy says to me, I have a story, but it's too long to send over DM. Is there another way? I said, send me a voice message, bro. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. So he went and typed it out. He says, I have somehow been pulled over by the police twice while absolutely fucking obliterated and walked away both times without a DUI. See, Davis James, his toast always falls jelly side down. So if there's ever a moment in time where that toast is fallen, good sir, you can bet your ass it's fallen on the side that ends with me in a jail cell or wrapped around a telephone pole or something. Anyway, so he says, and when I say drunk, I don't mean, oh shit, I probably shouldn't be driving. I mean biblically drunk. The first time, I was out drinking with my boss, which is already a fantastic start to any story involving the police. Very true. Before we even went to the bar, I had crushed 4 of those giant White Claws, the tall motherfuckers that are basically the alcohol equivalent of carrying around a Pringles can. So I arrive at the bar already feeling fantastic. Absolutely. 4 giant Pringles cans of White Claws? I would imagine so. So I arrive at the bar already feeling fantastic. Then I proceed to drink somewhere around 10 Bell's Two-Hearted Ales, 4 or 5 shots of Jameson, and an assortment of mystery alcohol my boss kept ordering. At some point, I stopped participating in the decision-making process. Sure. That makes sense. That makes sense, absolutely. And typically in my night, that's usually where the fun starts. You know what I'm saying? Let the liquor do the thinking. Shout out Jim Leahy. A drink would just appear in front of me, and apparently my policy was, yup, put it in the machine, for sure. By the end of the night, I was absolutely annihilated. We're talking near blackout territory, where you're still technically operating your body, but upper management has left the building. And for reasons that can only be explained by drunk guy logic, I decided, yeah, I can drive. And then he follows up with, I could not drive. Sure enough, eventually I see the red and blue lights behind me, and I remember having this weird moment of complete clarity, not panic, not fear, just acceptance. I literally thought, welp, it was good fun, I'm fucked. I pulled over, and this female police officer walks up to my window. Okay, there's still a chance, folks. And not really relevant to the story, but she was an absolute hottie. Oh boy, here we go. Which somehow made the situation worse. Yeah, I could see that. I would equate that to like having like a rash on your Johnson, and then going to the doctor, and the female nurse who has to look at it is like, a 10 out of 10, which is my wife, by the way, if she's in the other room, which somehow made the situation worse because now I'm about to get arrested for drunk driving, and I'm trying not to embarrass myself in front of an attractive woman. Yeah, how about that for a field sobriety test? Try not to look like an idiot in front of a hot chick. You'd bust a lot of people for sober DUIs, I can tell you that. She asked me every question every drunk driver ever dreams of hearing about. Have you been drinking tonight? At this point, I'm sitting behind the wheel, smelling like a fucking brewery, probably looking like my soul is buffering. Whoever this guy, again, I don't want to say your last name because I don't want to get you caught up here, but what a lyricist. I mean, this guy's got some vocabulary. He said, looking like my soul is buffering. Write that down, Tater. Shout out to my producer and cameraman Tater in the background. We're gonna get him a microphone one of these days. But yeah, my soul is buffering, and there are 4 empty White Claw cans in the car. So rather than attempt some elaborate lie, I just tell her a lot. To the question of, have you been drinking? He just says, a lot. She looks at me and tells me to get out of the car, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. It's starting. She sits me down on the curb while her partner stands there talking shit to me. Meanwhile, she starts searching my car. Now I'm watching this woman search a vehicle containing 4 giant empty White Claw cans after I have just voluntarily told her that I have consumed a lot of alcohol. At this point, I'm mentally preparing for jail. I'm thinking about the DUI. I'm thinking about my family. I'm thinking about explaining this to my job, which is kind of a crazy thought considering you were getting hammered with your boss. I'm probably 30 seconds away from discovering what my mugshot face looks like. She finishes searching the car, walks back over, looks at me, and asks, "How far away do you live?" I said, like 1.5 miles away. Then I point towards my place. She looks in that direction, pauses for a second, looks back at me, and with one word says, "Go." Whoa. That's huge. That's crazy. That is the anti of Davis James. I've heard so many stories like that, and I just like can't believe it. I can't believe it because like it's just not even in my like vocabulary of thought of just being like she could let me go. What? But that's unbelievable. God moment right there. She said, go. I don't know if there was a shift change coming up. I don't know if she had to be somewhere. I don't know if Jesus Christ himself briefly took over the police department. Or maybe he saw that your soul was buffering, bruh. Came to save you. But I wasn't about to request clarification. Certainly not. I didn't say, excuse me, officer, could you elaborate on what you mean by go? Fuck no. I went. Guardian angel number 1. You would think an experience like that would cause a person to seriously reevaluate their relationship with alcohol. As Shirka also said the same thing. One would think, but no. But no, not at all. Not at all. Nothing about that story told me initially, hey, I should stop drinking. You would be giving me far too much credit because there was a second incident. Whew. Okay. So let's just unpack the first one for a second real quick. So basically, dude goes out, gets hammered with his boss, which I've done a couple of times, and it's awesome. It really is awesome because you're like breaking that barrier, and you don't know if is one of you guys gonna break out a little bag? Maybe should one of you suggest to get a bag? Is that wrong? Is there an HR department? All that stuff. But anyway. You get done with that, but not just drinking. I mean, showing up at 4 Pringles cans deep, that's thick. And then Jell-O shots and all this, it's just crazy. And so then, you get behind the wheel of the car, and then I really like that moment of acceptance because I've been there where you're just like, fuck. And it's almost kind of like comfortable in that moment. You're almost just like, the jig is up. But man, I'm just in like complete shock at this female cop who's attractive, by the way. So seemingly, Chemo Swabi, you annihilated that interaction. If field sobriety tests were based off of how you were perceived by women, Golden Deluxe, because she just shipped you right on your way. I'm surprised she didn't follow you home and come inside with you, because that's what it seemed like was the direction that things were heading in. And that, just tells you to get on out of there. Wow. I've been lucky maybe 1 or 2 times in my life, but nothing to that extent. Well, I shouldn't say that. There's plenty of times that I realistically should probably be dead. I'm going to just stay in the land of gratitude for now, because karma's a bitch. It really is. Okay, so first incident 1. You would think after incident 1 that there should not be incident 2, but there is an incident 2. And here we go. He starts off with, this time, I'm watching the college football national championship by myself. Solo national championship, of course, we're getting in one. And apparently I decided that watching football alone required enough alcohol to tranquilize a rhinoceros. Yeah, it does, though. It really does. I mean, that like when alcohol ads are played on national televised sporting events and I'm by myself, they're 1,000% meant specifically for me. And every time I see one, I go grab another beverage. So, enough alcohol to take down a rhinoceros. He hadn't eaten anything. And of course, of the game, I drank probably 8 to 10 20-ounce Modelo's on an empty stomach. And there are certain decisions where you don't really need hindsight to determine whether they are good decisions. This was one of them. At some point, the night disappears. Next thing I know, I hear tap, tap, tap. I open my eyes and there is a flashlight directly in my face. Police officer standing outside my car, and I have absolutely no fucking idea where I am or how the night has arrived to this point. It's one of those moments where your brain has to reload the entire operating system. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I in need of a car? Why is there a police officer here? Oh, period, fuck, period. Luckily, and I cannot emphasize the word luckily enough, the car was not running. This is huge kind of. Let me explain something to you folks at home for the kids. In the eyes of the law enforcement, operating a vehicle consists of being in the driver's seat of a running vehicle. That is hugely important. If the vehicle is not running, you cannot be determined that you are operating the vehicle. However, here is a big however, a warning for you folks out there who are big drinkers and big drivers. Even if the car is turned off and the keys are in the ignition, they will still classify that as operating a motor vehicle. I don't know why. I don't know how that makes any sense. I don't know. Maybe they have too many people that just like shut off the car right as the cops are walking up or something. But that's the deal. Even if the car is still turned off, but the keys are in the ignition, you can still get fucked. So, word of the wise. If you're out there doing some craziness and you're driving a car down the road, I'm very anti that for a multitude of reasons. But if you are, park up on the side of the road or in a parking lot and you're worried about it, turn the car off, take those keys, throw them in the back seat of the vehicle, because there is no way that they could swing it any which way that you were operating that vehicle, because how could you? The keys were in the back seat of the car. Anyway, so he says, luckily, and I can't stress the word luckily enough, the car wasn't running. The officer tells me, you need to call somebody to come get you. Then he adds, if you can't get somebody to come pick you up, I'm arresting you. I grab my phone. The battery is almost dead. Perfect. I call my sister. Ring, ring, ring again. Nothing. No answer. Worst feeling on planet Earth, especially if you're on one of those jail payphones and you got Rocco standing behind you and he's either going to beat you up or molest you if you don't get off the phone. That's the worst. Nothing, no answer. So now I'm sitting in a car, absolutely shit-faced, staring at a dying phone while a police officer is basically counting down the clock of my freedom. And I'm thinking, this is it. This is finally it. You get that acceptance feeling again, Then, out of nowhere, folks, the phone rings. My sister. I don't think I've ever been happier to see another human being's name appear on my screen. She answers, arrangements are made, and instead of jail, the cops take me to some sort of drunk tank or sobering center. I've never heard of any, I've heard of the drunk tank, but I've never heard of sobering center. That sounds kind of nice. Eventually, my brother-in-law comes to pick me up, sister's husband, which I'm sure was exactly how he wanted to spend his evening. Yeah, I'm sure. And somehow, no DUI, no arrest, no criminal record, twice, nothing. It's insane. At this time, those stories felt unbelievable luck. Now that I'm sober, they honestly scare the shit out of me, because I realized how easily either story could have ended up completely differently. I could have gotten arrested. I could have lost my job. I could have seriously hurt somebody. I could have killed somebody. I could have killed myself. Instead, somehow I got another chance. And then another one. Today, I'm 80 days sober. By the grace of God, I don't have a record. I can laugh at parts of these stories now because some of the circumstances are objectively fucking ridiculous. But the funniest part might also be the darkest. For years, I thought getting away with shit like this meant I was lucky. Now I think the lucky part is that I've lived long enough to realize I needed to stop. And believe me, those aren't even my only drinking stories. They're just the two where I came closest to having to tell the rest of them from a jail cell. Man, Guy, thank you so much. That was insane. It's insane that somebody, to me, that shows, it's just so insane that somebody would take the time to sit down and want to tell me that. I'm so grateful and I'm so lucky that I get to talk to people like that all the time. And Guy, that's unbelievable. That's crazy. 2 times like that. I've heard of a lot. I've heard of a lot of lucky breaks, but man, that's pretty cool. But I like the perspective shift at the end. Congratulations on 80 days sober. That's unbelievable. But I love the perspective shift, and I think that's a lot of the reason why I tell the stories that I do. I'm not. It's not lost on me the gravity and the seriousness of some of the things that I did and the ridiculousn's. It's definitely not lost on me. In fact, quite the opposite. That's part of the point and the reason that I tell them. I've had people that I know never give up, never get better, never want to, just out of sheer embarrassment or shame that they didn't deserve to or whatever. And that's just not the case. And so I have felt that way. And I think the stories and making humor out of these crazy like things is a beautiful thing. And I think you did just that. And so I'm super grateful you sent me that. Anyway, folks, that is the confessional section. Please share your stories. Send them to my DMs. Send them to wherever. I want to hear from them. But that's confessional. And so, folks, we are going to move on to the comments. We're going to go to the comment section because, again, the only thing better than a Davis James video, folks, is the comment section of a Davis James video. So one that I have pulled up here, and I just posted a video that is getting some love recently. It's a video that I tell about my buddy who, and a lot of people think that this story is fake, and it's not at all. Yeah, so a story I told about my buddy who's working at a McDonald's, and at this particular McDonald's, everybody who worked there was a rampant drug user of all different drugs. But my buddy's thing was opiates, and while he was at work one day, again, we're going back to the fecal situation. This is a poop-heavy episode, folks, but the kid goes to his boss at McDonald's, and he says, I pooped my pants at the drive-thru window. You know, what a brutal way to start the day, really. I pooped my pants working the drive-thru at a McDonald's. God, that's a reflection day. Anyway, he goes to his boss and he tells him he poops his pants, shat my pants at the drive-thru window, asking, what can I get for you today? And the boss says, all right, go home. You don't live very far away. Change your pants, come back. He's like, okay. Goes home. Instead of changing his pants, he decides to do some drugs, overdoses, dies. His dad, I think it was his dad or his girlfriend, I can't remember which one it was, both were there, but one of them notices that he's deceased, hits him with some Narcan, brings him back to life, and is like, well, you should probably go back to work. And he was like, I guess I should. So he goes back to his shift, clocks back into his job after literally being in the afterlife, and then, they put him back on the drive-thru window. What can I get for you today? Welcome to McDonald's. Realizing in that moment that he forgot to change his pants. So he's back at it after dying, and he probably pooped his pants more while he died. And so I told that story, and it's been getting some love on Instagram. Thank you guys. But I've had a few comments from it, and I want to share some with you. So let's go to the comment section here. This dude says, one time I was so wasted that I ate an entire 20-piece chicken McNuggets, then threw it up. Then after that, I was hungry again and went back to McDonald's. And they said I did not get another 20-piece and I regret it. Okay. This dude says, fire shit pants story, bro. Top notch. That's what I'm here for, folks. Davis James with the shit pants stories. The least this father could do was at this point come to Mickey D's and swap clothes with your buddy. Yeah, right? Like, you're going to save my life, but you're not going to change my pants? You know what I mean? That seems a little like you did 50% of the job. And a lot of comments on here are people being like, why would the dad tell the kid to go back to McDonald's? You don't know these people's situations at home. That's kind of unfair, to be honest with you. They might really need that money from the McDonald's. They probably did. And so there was, either you work at a drive-thru with poop in your pants or you are homeless. It's kind of a weird thing to weigh out, but sometimes you got to do that in life. Do you go back to the shift with poop in your pants or do you not pay rent? That is what America is all about. Anyway, back to the comments. I have so many questions. First, by friend, do you mean you? No, not in this case. There are stories where I have told that in that point of view, but this is truly a story from a friend who I actually met working at the detox. This person says, I had a teenage buddy working the McDrive-thru window and saying, welcome to McDonald's, may I check your odor, for a year and never got reported. This kid who died and got brought back to life also used to work at a Hardee's, and every customer that would come through, he would ask off rip, not even like, hey, welcome to Hardee's, what can I get for you? That's what you're supposed to ask. He would start off the conversation with, hi, what's your name? Do you want to buy 100 cookies for $50? And they would be like, no. And he'd be like, well, then why are you even here? This guy was an absolute savage. Loved working the drive-thru when I was working at the McDonald's because I loved fucking with people. Not proud of it, man. I have to say it. Homie and I bought 17 McChickens the other day at $1.50 each and split it. Damn, man. Somebody said, OMFG, I would have killed to work at this McDonald's. Yeah. Those jobs where it's acceptable to drink and use while you're working, they are the best, but then like inevitably at the end of it, they're always the worst. For obvious reasons. But it's the same situation with me working at the deli in the ghetto. I was a deli boy in the ghetto in Pontiac in Michigan. And everybody there, it was me and the other deli people was two like 50-plus-year-old like white women, Karen looking gals, but just smoking cigarettes nonstop, and they all were hammered on the job. And it was the best because I would come in drunk or high or whatever and just lay out slices of ham for these people. I did a lot of crazy stuff. I took acid one time, went in there and started serving people potato salad with my bare hands. It was just it was a weird day. But anyway, yeah, those jobs where they're fun, they're so much fun, but then ultimately at the end, you know, I mean, I was sitting there at like 20 years old with these women, like looking around, I'm sweating and pupils are dilated and there's ham everywhere. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing with my life? And so I had to get the hell out of there. I'd tell you one thing, if I died and came back to life, I certainly would not be going back to the drive-thru. Maybe the register, but not the drive-thru. All right, this guy, Bannock81. I once totaled my car. Didn't know because I was 30 sheets to the wind, went through the McDonald's drive-thru, woke up in my bed with half-eaten McDonald's, went outside and thought someone rear-ended my car in my driveway, which was impossible. Still don't know what happened. Oh my God. Those days waking up where you don't know where your car is, or like something happened to your car and it's like, oh God, you know, this baby doll X420, great minds think alike. She said, laughing face. Wait, isn't it possible when he died that he pooped again? It is possible, more plausible, really, I would say, because that is what I was always taught is like the first thing that happens when you die is that you pee and poop yourself. This dude says, your shit sucks. You've never done anything. It's always, quote, I know a guy, go out and live. Thank you, Beef and Cheddar Boy. We love hearing from you. It's Tater, my cameraman in the background laughing. It's kind of insulting, Tater, that the only time that the audience can hear you laugh loudly enough is when somebody is shitting on me in the comments. Folks, we're currently running an ad for a new cameraman as we speak. That comment is like the tip of the iceberg when it comes to hate comments on my shit, and I think they're hilarious. Don't get you got to have thick skin if you're in this business. You got to have thick skin anywhere in the world now. But particularly in this game with the eyeballs that are on my ugly face every day and the shit that I say, you got to have thick skin. So Beef and Cheddar Boy, I just love you. I love you. And I pray for you. This person says, you do realize it isn't exactly cool to flex on other people's stories, right? At least they have self-control. Yeah, really sounds like this guy had self-control. The DOS hyena. Sounded like he had a lot of control, self-control. Self-control enough to overindulge to the point of death on his lunch break at McDonald's. That speaks volumes on his level of control. But yeah, I like telling other people's stories. I like telling my stories. I like telling other people's stories. I get permission from the other people. People send me stories to tell. That's not something that a lot of people don't know. People will DM me stories all day long, and I love telling other people's stories because they get a kick out of it. So yeah, I'm not like flexing on other people's stories. I'm not trying to flex. I really don't think it's a flex. I think it's crazy that you would even call it that. It's like a segue. It's a good hook and a segue into a fun story that people like. So, take it or leave it, folks. Fuck. This person said, LOL, I was in an unlocked unit and I would go to work, etc., meet up with friends for food and drinks, and then they would allow me to come back. But she told her case manager that... she said, you do realize I'm getting picked up by a friend I haven't seen in over a year, and we're going to a place that serves alcohol. I won't be plastered when I return, but I will not be sober. The caseworker straight up said, understandable, and honestly, I just appreciate your telling us in advance rather than showing up hammered and being a piece of shit. Work like a charm. Damn. That seems kind of risque for a psych ward or jail, bit of a liability, but legendary caseworker. God bless her for allowing somebody to just keep the shakes away, folks. That's all we're trying to do in this world is keep the shakes away. That's what I hope this podcast does for y'all. I hope it scratches that itch. It stops that shake. It momentarily stops the chaos in your world for the half hour or hour that we're on the air. And I'm a very high anxiety person, and so doing this, it helps a lot with that, and I hope that people can get the same effect by listening, and that's really why I like doing this. And so I can't thank you again, everybody who's sitting here listening, wherever you are, in your car, in a hotel, getting gacked up with a prostitute or whatever, or just cranking hog in your bathroom, listening to this. I'm fine with that too. I really am. I don't like my wife all the time will be like, she'll be like, oh, how many, did you get any messages from any girls these days? And the truth, honest to God, is I don't. I really don't. I mean, I have a lot of eyeballs on my page, but the majority of the stuff that I get is from dudes cranking hog, which salute goes out, brethren, for hog cranking. Hey, it's sometimes it's a Tuesday at 9 a.m. and I'm just really not interested in seeing that. But anyway, nonetheless, wherever you may be, wherever you are, wherever you're going to be, I hope that you're listening to this fondly, and I hope that it's giving you whatever you need it to in that moment. So, folks, that is episode 3 of Call Me Crazy with Davis James. Thank you for being here. Stay tuned for episode 4.